Hey y'all, hope you're staying warm out there. So today's video, I wanted to talk a little bit about, in a more specific way, just like, what the hell is intuition anyway? So the first time I had heard about the word intuition was in high school. At the time it was an English class, and in that class we were discussing the works of the Transcendentalists, which were a group of poets in the 1800s in the United States. And there's a bunch of them, but like Ralph Waldo Emerson was one of the big names in that group of people. And so I guess it was like the late 1800s, around the Civil War period, maybe a little after, I think. Don't quote me on that. Anyway, I didn't really understand what the word meant. It was mentioned so much in the historical supplementals we had to read for class, but I knew it seemed important to me in some way. Like it seemed like kind of a big deal, and over time I started to understand like what the word intuition meant. And it took a long time. I mean, like, it was about 15 years before the word clicked. And that is like a very me thing, where I will hear a word and I just be like, I don't really understand what that means. And then like years later, the full context of it clicks for me. And I think, when we talk about intuition, what we're talking about is not just like a single thing that happens. It's like a process. And I think that it's like the other half of whatever thinking is, right? Like when we talk about thinking, right, cognition, cognitive processes, we're talking about something that our minds, our brains do without us even really like trying to do it, right? So like, I mean, if you're somebody who has ever dealt with anxiety, depression, intrusive thoughts, you're very well aware that like your brain is capable of just producing things, right? Without you trying to produce them. It just does it. So I think intuition, and when I speak of intuition, that is like that is what I would call like the useful aspect of what I was just describing, right? But in order for it to become useful, you first, as a person, have to cultivate a groundedness, an ability to allow your thoughts to pass through your mind in a way where you're not emotionally impacted by them. Or even if you are emotionally impacted by them, you're able to let that emotion wash away. In other words, there is a certain aspect in cultivating intuition where you have to allow yourself to have a groundedness, a center that you can return to. This is not an easy thing to do. I mean, I would say I have some aspect of that groundedness and that centeredness that I've cultivated for myself, but it isn't there 100% of the time. And so, like, kind of going to my own studies in Taoism, something that's talked about a lot around amongst Taoists is the idea that what you're trying to cultivate for yourself is a sense of emptiness. And emptiness is like a really weird word, right? Because when people think of emptiness, they think of nothing. They think of a lack of something. And in Taoism, emptiness means something totally different. It means an ability to not be stuck. I think that's the best way that I can put it. To not be stuck on something. In other words, somebody who is empty, right, if they are confronted by an inner emotion, maybe, jealousy, envy, resentment, They don't cling on to it. They allow it to pass, and they allow, internally, it allows themselves to return to a state of emptiness. Where the best way I could put this is in regards to sort of describing what that concept means is, imagine that you have a canvas, right? Maybe, like a digital canvas, any kind of canvas, really. And you can draw whatever you want on that canvas. And whatever the universe wants to draw, it can draw on that canvas. But it never stays there, right? There's always something else that appears. There's always something else that comes into the canvas, and things leave the canvas. But the thing that remains constant through whatever changes happen, right, over countless centuries, over whatever, the one thing that remains constant is the canvas itself. And the thing that makes the canvas useful is its blankness, its emptiness, its lack of quality, basically. Because it's that lack of quality that allows for it to be filled with whatever it is that arises. And so intuition as a capacity, as a human capacity, I personally feel that it is impossible to cultivate without without that sort of emptiness to allow ideas to come in. And to allow ideas to come in without you implicating anything on them, right? And this gets tricky when we're talking about, because ultimately, right, let's zero in on like why I'm even talking about this. In regards to tarot reading, like, it gets a little tricky because in terms of how we learn to read tarot, often we learn the cards, right? We learn the language of the cards and like what each card means, how all those meanings sort of coalesce and correlate to each other. And then on top of that, we learn about like how the spreads allow us to derive structural meaning from how the cards are laid out. So why I say that's a little tricky is it's kind of hard to have emptiness when you have a system of knowledge that you have to sort of place over your canvas, so to speak. And that is not an easy thing to like understand and figure out, right? It's sort of like the art of poetry or the art of improvisation requires the ability to take all these systems that are kind of like cemented into your mind, right? Like language, body language, I guess just a bunch of languages, right? When you take all these languages that become sort of inherent in your body, in your mind, in other words, like their first nature. You don't think, like I don't think about what I'm going to say when I talk to you, right? It's just what's kind of happening. And I'm learning a lot about this process again because I'm learning another language. I'm learning Spanish right now. And so this is not the first time I've learned another language. I've learned French. I've done a little bit of study in Japanese. I've never tried to like be fluent in any language. And in order to be fluent in that language, you sort of have to get to a place where you're not thinking at all about what you're saying. You're just saying it. It becomes, first nature for you. That is very difficult. And I say it's it's difficult and it's not difficult. The difficult part is all the work that has to go into making it a first nature kind of thing. That work is just repetition. So going back to Taoism, I've been learning Tai Chi for about the last year and a half, coming on 2 years. There are certainly aspects that are starting to become first nature for me. but not all of it. I mean, it's, I've been learning a long form, and it's about 122 movements, and there's still times where I'm doing the form where I'm just like, I don't remember what's supposed to come next. I don't remember, and I've seen, I've seen my head instructor and other, like, instructors who have been doing it for like 20 plus years, who still at times, like, they get lost in the structure of the form. So to make something first nature for you, like reading tarot, like, that is a long-term process. And it requires just a constant sort of re-experiencing of the process, of the format. Like, arguably the best way that you could become an effective tarot reader is to just read tarot a lot, right? And have a lot of mistakes, a lot of misses, give a lot of people bad advice. Which is why I say, if you're going to read tarot, read for yourself first. Let's say that you have a romantic situation, right, that you want to, like, try and peer into a little bit. And go carefully, right? Let's say that you're trying to figure out a career situation for yourself. Treat it as, if you're somebody who's just starting, treat those readings as you're asking a friend for an opinion. And this is mostly a very trustable friend. But, like, you also understand that sometimes this friend doesn't give the best advice for you, because maybe y'all don't know each other well enough. And then over time, as you create that rapport with yourself in your tarot readings, you will find that your readings become more and more effective, because you understand yourself more and more effective. And this becomes important in tarot reading for other people. There's just as much an aspect of reading that requires you to have some understanding of the other person, even if it's just very basic understanding, even if it's reading body language. And, a lot of people like to say, like, oh, that's trickery or scam or whatever. Like, every bit of information that goes into whatever it is you're doing when you're interacting with people is important. If you're coming into tarot reading where it's just like, I'm channeling spirits and I'm getting information from out of nowhere, and there are people who I would say like, okay, yeah, you do that. Like, you're good at that. I'm not that kind of person. Like, that's not my engagement with tarot reading. That's not my general engagement with things in general. My only experiences that I even say come close to that are my experiences with Reiki, but that's a whole other subject, I guess. I don't know. Maybe those subjects will eventually intertwine. Anyway, my point is, when we talk about intuition, we're talking about a body of knowledge, of expertise, of information. And I think that's the key word, is information, that comes without a prior source. And I think my personal definition of intuition is different from that definition. But that's sort of like the general consensus definition of intuition. So let me give you my definition of intuition and why I think it's important. My definition of intuition is, it's a holistic system and sense of information that is built on what is around you, not just mentally, like, not just, not in just yourself, right? Like, mentally, spiritually, your body, but the entire environment around you. It is my personal belief that the human body is capable of accessing information from the world around it. And I don't just mean in terms of sense perception. Like, obviously, there's our five very easily recordable senses of taste, touch, sight, hearing, and the other one. What is it? Taste, touch, sight, hearing. What am I missing? Taste, touch, sight, hearing. What am I missing? There's 5. Smell. I forget about smell all the time. I can smell the bread that I just baked this morning wafting in the kitchen. So yeah, taste, touch, sight, hearing, smell, right? Those are our 5 basic sense perceptions. All of those can be important information in any, in any circumstance, in any given, day. And then those can be incorporated into tarot reading. There are these concepts that come around in, for lack of a better term, in these metaphysics communities around sort of like clairsentience, clairaudience, I think. The idea that, there are thoughts that come into your mind without prior, without any sort of prior source. So there are events in terms of thoughts, in terms of smell. There are people who apparently have smells. There are people who hear sounds. There are people who have sensations of touch, and they can use that as information when trying to, give messages to people, right? Some of that stuff goes a little bit far out for me. Same time, I would say, once again, with Reiki, I've had some experiences where I go, okay, yeah, there's like something there. With any of this stuff, have your own boundaries on like what you find acceptable and unacceptable. And those boundaries will change over time. What you're willing to accept as a given, does not need to be like a stuck thing, right? It can change as your information changes, as your experiences change. This is all part of the territory. It's all, what happens. And this is all like the realm of intuition. So anyway, so let me get back to sort of my original point. It's better to, give you a definition more finally. Intuition, in my mind, in terms of my definition of it, like I said, it is a holistic information. It's not just like a sentence. It is the sentence aligned with the smell, with the taste, with the touch, with the sound, with the whole spectrum of information that is available in that moment. Because what is, in my mind, what is the universe offering as information to you, and not just like what human language is offering to you. And so when we try and communicate with intuition, we try and communicate whatever we can with language, because language is our means by which we are able to communicate to each other this information. And there's always going to be information that we just can't quite get across. And so there you go. That's the tweet. That's the lecture. That's the Dharma talk, whatever you want to call it. So let's do a reading real quick. I've jabbered on for about 20 minutes here now. For those of y'all who watch this whole thing, I mean, God bless. I appreciate y'all listening to what I have to say. There's one last slip. It was Libra. So, Libra, it is your day today. That means we get to empty the bag back into the little container, and we can start brand new. What kind of reading are we going to do for Libra? I'm going to show you. This is the process. It is another spirit path reading. I'm kind of getting... I want to do a romance reading. Romance readings are fun. Well, we'll do a spirit path reading. All right, see you in a sec.
Okay, so a spirit path reading for Libra. Ooh, Ten of Swords right out the deck, too. We're going to use the Trailer Park Warlock Tarot. Oh, and Magician. Okay, well, that seems important. We'll just go with that. That's how this goes. There's your personal card, Libra. Magician. You are in the midst of initiating into a process of spiritual development. And in this process, I want to find out what is it precisely, and what energy. In what energy, Libra, are you doing this development? Let's find out. Empress, Earth energy. So it looks like, Libra, you are in the process of grounding yourself into sort of the physical realm. You're grounding yourself into nature, into a divine feminine sort of place. This can be, this can be a very luxurious place, a very pleasurable place, a place of sensuality. So it looks like part of your spiritual path right now is, I've been getting a lot of these kind of readings lately where it's just like, it just seems like the big theme perhaps for this year, even for a lot of people, is returning to like square one, returning to the basics, returning to, what we have emerged out of nature. And, I think a lot of this has to do for a lot of people with, the overabundance of technology and the overabundance of mercurial, stuff in our lives. And so we have the Magician card here, which tells us that you have all these elements together. You have gathered all of your interior aspects and brought them out to conduct this initiation. Whether that's, you have the financial resources, the support network, the body of knowledge, and the inspiration, right? Like when I did the illustration for this Magician card, I did include this part where like Jake is lighting this bower on fire because I want to illustrate in that initiation process, you're going to break a couple eggs too, especially if it's your first time. So in this Empress energy, Libra, what is it that what is your aim here? Is it just grounding yourself, or is there something more to it? Two of Cups. Okay, so this is really centering ourselves into what's the what, right? You're initiating yourself into something that is also maybe romantic, but certainly relational. You're grounding yourself in relationships that are fulfilling for you, that are also like soul connection relationships. And like I said, I mean, that's certainly, I get romance in context to this, especially because of Empress being a very sensual sort of card, a sensual sort of archetype. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that. It can also be something where it's just like you have found a soul brother, soul sister, somebody with whom you have like the best kind of conversations in your life. But like I said, there's definitely a physicality. So definitely like a ooh la la. Maybe you've met somebody who you want to do, practice some tantra with, right? Scandalo. Anyway, So this is sort of turning into a little bit of a romancy reading. And I get the sense here that there's somebody in mind here. So I'm actually going to pull out Rider-Waite because I want to do a quick reading. And in the split, we have 6 of Cups and the Lovers. Isn't that convenient? That's super convenient. All right. So, okay, there's the Magician again. So it looks like this is all part of the territory, just flopping things around. So it looks like whoever it is that you are thinking about here in this sort of soul connection, they're also initiating something. And Queen of Pentacles comes up. That's great. So this is somebody, this is very much like the Empress. These are 2 peas in a pod right here. This is a connection. And you know, like, don't get caught up in the genders, right? This is just about what the energy is. It's a very receptive energy. And there's an interesting dichotomy that's going on in this reading where it's like you have 2 people who are in the midst of initiating, but they're initiating because they're preparing to receive. And so it's like you're preparing to receive somebody in your life and they're prepared to receive you as well. And they are about to make a new beginning. Like, this is a new beginning for them. They are starting over in a big way. They are taking a leap of faith on this one too. So there's like I don't know, I feel reluctant to use this term because it's a little bit but there is sort of like I was gonna say twin flame, but like this is like a twin. These are, like I said, this is 2 peas in the pod. Y'all are like, there is a groundedness between the 2 of you going on. But there's also a lot of magic going on. Like, there's some witchcraft going on here bringing you 2 together. Or perhaps it's just the universe is ready to just be like, look, you know, the universe, Mother Nature, they're just saying it's right, it's go time. And whatever is bringing the 2 of you together, it is clearly, it clearly has like a, I mean, I get like a mother ayahuasca sense to it. Like there's a slight psychedelic tinge. You know, maybe it's the 2 of Cups. I just think of like imbibing a lot. There's a lot of taking stuff in and allowing it to transform you. So we got this last card here for you specifically, Libra. So like this column here, this is who you are bringing into your life. You may not know who this person is, but they're doing the same thing you're doing. Y'all are both manifesting each other, for lack of a better term. Y'all are both bringing each other into this reality. And, you know, as I had noticed at the beginning of the reading, 10 of Swords was on the bottom of the deck. And so you may be coming out of a situation of infidelity. You may be coming out of a situation where you had a bad end to a relationship. And you are like reconfiguring, and I think this goes into the Spirit Path reading. You are reconfiguring for yourself what does a functional relationship look like? And I have to say, like, based on these cards, this is an extremely, especially these 2 cards, this is an extremely functional relationship. This is grounded, this is stable, this is secure, and this is abundant. This is like, I mean, I want this relationship. So let me know how it works out, because I'd like some of that too. Anyway, final card for you, Libra, Page of Swords. So you're going to get information about this soon. You know, this is a card of like receiving a text or sending a text, but maybe receiving a text. Like, this is like somebody slipping into your DMs kind of a card. This is somebody who you're going to meet very soon in sword energy. So it's not going to be like, it's not like you're going to run into this person at a coffee shop. It's like you're going to learn about this person in name first, and it's going to slowly evolve or quickly evolve. I don't know, but my point is this is not a person that you're going to see face to face initially. It's going to slowly, I keep saying slowly. I guess it's going to be slow, even though like we see in this card, it's very windy. Air is often associated with like haste, quickness. But I keep saying slowly, so it must be slowly. I don't know. Mileage may vary depending on the Libra. But this is a wonderful little reading for you. Wishing you the best of luck. Both you and your special someone. In the meantime, what I would say is make sure you remain grounded in this process and centered. Don't get too caught up in sort of like looking for the signs. It'll show up, right? Like when you're like in magician energy, the best thing that you can do, just let the spell do its work. Let your magic do its work. And the more that you can kind of even forget that you set that intention into the world, the better, the more impactful it is. And that's been my personal experience. Anyway, I hope this reading finds you well and was useful for you. Whether it was useful for you or not useful for you, feel free to leave a comment in the video. And let me know how you feel about this. And as always, you're certainly welcome to suggest topics for me to open up about. Always love to talk about this stuff. All right, I'll see you later. Bye.